3 overlooked steps to cultivate deeply rooted trust in the relationship.
How to know that you and your spouse truly trust each other in the relationship? What's one of the things?
But you can actually be yourself. You
Yeah.
can be yourself. You can let your guard down, feel
Yeah.
comfortable with your spouse, and just be who you are. You're not in a shell.
Yeah.
You're open. You're giving yourself. That's one way to show that there's actually trust in the relationship. You feel comfortable with who you are. You don't feel like, okay, I gotta put up a front.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta fake the funk.
Yeah.
So that's one way to show that, hey, I trust my spouse. There's some trust. We have some trust in this relationship.
And when it comes to also like being yourself, that also looks like being able to admit your flaws. Like admit your weaknesses, admit the areas where you mess up, the areas where you're not perfect at, the areas that you need to improve upon, because if there is no trust, it's like, okay, I can't even show you that part of me. And I remember that was a big chunk of time in our marriage where I felt like I couldn't let you see my flaws. I couldn't let you see my mistakes.
But I'm glad you felt comfortable at some point in time to actually open up and let me see your flaws. Because, with that, one reason why people can't let their spouse see their flaws because of maybe fear of criticism, fear of finger pointing, and just feeling shameful.
Yeah.
Some people feel shameful in their relationships where it's like because of the environment that might have been created.
Yeah.
Or just the way, the relationship is this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's not exactly what we want. We want to be able to be ourselves. We want our spouse to be able to, see all of who we are. So that's one way to know that you both truly trust each other is you can actually be your full self, like your whole self. Another way to know is that you always feel welcome to share your mistakes, no matter what it is, without that fear of being rejected, without the fear of being criticized, without, I told you so's, without thinking of any of that. Like I can admit that I made a mistake. I can say that openly. I messed up. I made a mistake. And feel like, my spouse is not going to come down on me. They're not going to point fingers at me. They're not going to say, okay, I can't trust you again. And it's not going to be a big eruption. It's not going to be a big problem. It's not going to be a big thing because we trust each other and we trust that sometimes we do make mistakes.
And when you have that, that's when you feel secure. So that's another way you know that, you have trust, you've cultivated trust in your relationship because you actually feel secure in your relationship. You feel secure that, when I tell my spouse is between us two, I can open my thoughts. I can share with my spouse things that I may be fearful of.
Yeah.
Things that things that's going on with me. I can express my opinion openly, and my spouse is going to receive it openly and not judge me, not criticizing, but actually have space for me in their heart. And when we say have space, that means open up your heart, open up your mind, open up your emotions to receive everything that your spouse is giving you. So when you have that security, that shows that trust has been cultivated in the relationship.
You know what? And that word safe is so deep because you don't have that with everyone. You don't have that. The relationship that you have with your spouse is not one that you would have with every single person or anyone at all. Because when your spouse is your safe space, it's like I can show you parts of me that I'm not going to show everybody else. I can tell you things going on within my mind that I'm not going to tell everybody else because I don't feel that safe with other people the way that I feel with you. So, and that takes a lot of that just requires a lot of intimacy. You got to really be intimate and be close for that.
That's an emotional intimacy and it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time, but more than time, it takes effort. Because couples can be together 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's not just time, it takes effort. It's effort, it's effort on both parts. Coming, let me open up. Then also the receiving part, let me receive.
Yeah.
How am I receiving what my spouse is saying? So they can actually they actually know that I'm here for them. I have their best interests at heart and they can trust me.
Yeah.
So it takes effort and it takes time. More importantly, it takes effort. But the thing is, people will try certain things, and if it's not working right then and there, let me stop putting forth the effort. But in life, anything that you want, if you really want it, you're not going to stop putting forth the effort. You're going to keep going, keep going, keep going
Yeah.
until you get it. And most of y'all know that right now because you're with the person that you wanted.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it might not have been easy.
Yeah. And that's with anything in life, anything that you want, you got to keep going for it. And so that's the third one, is feeling secure, giving your spouse, you know, everything about you, everything, even everything that's hidden, your secret feelings, your secret thoughts, your secret fears, those things that are in the back of your mind that you really don't want to share with anyone else. You know that you have trust when you're able to share that with your spouse, and when you feel invited to share that with your spouse. But here's the thing about it. Everyone does not have that kind of relationship. And so what we want to do tonight is share with you 3 steps that you can use to actually cultivate that deeply rooted trust with your husband or with your wife. Okay. And again, like my husband said, it's not about, okay, we've been married. And that's a big misconception. Can we just stop here for a second? That's such a big misconception. People really, don't beat yourself up if you've been married 5, 10, 15, almost 20 years and you don't have that kind of trust with your spouse. Don't beat yourself up if you've been married for a lengthy amount of time and you feel like you don't know each other. That's sometimes that's what happens. Okay. And so that's where the work to reconnect comes in. That's where the work to rediscover comes in. No, people have this misconception that, like, oh, they've been married 10 years, they should have things down packed. Who said that? Who said that? People draw apart. People lose, people lose connection. People lose intimacy. People lose touch with each other, especially when you're chasing your goals. You're focused on your careers. You got children. You're raising a family, and you got things going on individually. Some people just draw apart, and so don't beat yourself up if you're in that place where it's like, okay, we do need to reconnect. Okay, we do need to build trust. So that amount of time, it doesn't equate to anything. Some people have been married 20 years and they need to, like, get it, bring things back full circle.
That's why it's more so about the effort versus the time. That's why we said time. Yeah, you need time, but you need effort. And you need the effort, you need the time, you need the effort. But when you put in the effort in, you got to put the time in for the effort to have its payoff.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So we're going to get into number one. So number one, the one thing that you can do to actually cultivate trust in your relationship is make room, right, to address and heal from the past. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is, we don't believe in getting stuck in the past. We don't believe in getting into all the nitty-gritty things that happened in the past, that happened 2 months ago, that happened last year, right? Because there's no way you can move forward if you're busy looking back. It's like you can't drive a car looking back all the time. You glance back every now and again, if need be. So if need be, you address the things in the past. But what happens is a lot of couples, most couples, and we was there, we'll address things in the past and they'll bring up something else, and they'll bring up something else, and they'll bring up something else. Next thing you know, we're stuck about everything in the past versus moving forward. And right, so when you're focused forward, you're going to address certain things in the past, but certain things you're going to realize it's not even worth it to address it. It's not even worth it to address it. Let's heal from right now, this place where we're at, right? Yeah. Let's heal from this place where we're at. Paul said, he said in the scriptures, Paul said, this one thing I do, this one thing he does, forgetting those things of the past, reaching forward to the things which are before, right? I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ. So Paul's basically saying there's one thing that take heed. There's one thing that I do is I let go of certain things in the past, right? Because I'm too focused on looking forward, moving forward, right? Towards that prize that I can have, that prize that I can have. And what is that prize? In marriage, the prize is unity, peace, love. That is the prize that's going to happen when you two build that trust, when you build that connection without getting stuck in the past or addressing every little thing that happened in the past. And sometimes it's best to let's start from right here, move forward.
Yeah. And, with that, there are also things in the past that we do got to bring forward. We're not going to get stuck there because that's not what we believe in doing. Of course, you're going to, address some things, but we're not going to get stuck there. That's not what we're about to do. And so when the relationship is in a place where there's a lot of resentment, for example, where, you're holding on to things that happened 5, 7 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 6 months ago. Okay. And you want to really cultivate deep-rooted trust without getting stuck there. you still got to call those elephants out.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta bring out the elephants that are in the room. We gotta talk about the things that are weighing you down, because you can't race forward if you don't get those elephants out. And so while you don't get stuck there, like my husband was saying, you call those big, what we call those boulders.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about this before a couple live streams ago.
That's a while.
It was a while
It's
ago.
called, if you look in the trailer, it's called like something about the past. I forgot what it's called.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one about
The
the past.
4-step method to get past the past.
Yes. Okay, so don't get stuck on the pebbles. That's what we're trying to get at here. Don't get stuck on the pebbles. The pebbles are, you said this thing, you did this thing again, you promised you were going to do this, and those are the pebbles, like those little small, little tiny, issues, okay, from the past. We're not talking about, let's not bring all those pebbles out, okay? Let's bring out the boulders. What are the, type boulders in the comments? Type the word boulders in the comments. What are the boulders in the relationship? What are those heavy, large, big boulders that are weighing you both down, that we're avoiding this conversation right now because we both feel differently about it, and I don't want to spend any time arguing with you about it. So we're avoiding it. We're not talking about it. We're tiptoeing around the issue. And
that's why you gotta have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
Addressing those boulders, addressing those elephants room, or just talking about the boulders, where you can move forward once you handle those boulders, having those hard conversations. But the thing is, learning, when you have those hard conversations, when you touch those boulders, that healing is going to come from that.
Yes.
Healing is going to come from that. But sometimes going back, people go back and they want to hold on to that.
Yeah.
Versus what Paul is saying, okay, let go of it. Let's address it. Let's talk of it.
Yeah.
But let's heal from it and let go, so we can move on forward towards the prize.
And that's the secret.
That's the secret right there. That's the secret. Addressing it if you have to. Let's get past it. Let's move forward towards the prize. But people are just going back here. They're stuck right there.
Yes.
And then, like you say, they start getting into little nitty gritty. You said this and I said that. Then it goes back and forth, and you actually go nowhere. We actually go nowhere. And we talk with couples that has been to counseling, that's been to marriage counseling, and they say the same repeated thing. They feel like it's just past, it's just past, it's just past.
Yeah.
So this is one thing that you want to do is address those boulders, heal from those boulders, not bring up every little detail, but learn how to, okay, we talked about this, let's let it go, let's move forward, like Paul said, and go towards this prize of the calling. Because some of you have a calling on your relationship, a calling in your marriage.
Talk about that.
But you're too busy back there.
Talk about that.
And you got guys saying, you got to get this together back here
before
you can go there. Because he said, as I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of Christ. We have a calling of Christ, and sometimes you're not going to get it together. You're not going to get that calling if you don't get this two right here together.
Yeah. That makes me think about us. One of the things that we've talked about before is how the issues, the problems, the way we used to solve things, the disagreements that we used to have, it wouldn't cut it right now. Like those week-long avoiding each other, driving around the house, trying not walk in the house, simply to not have an issue, ignoring each other's calls and texts, just avoiding the hard conversation, that just wouldn't cut it right now. Because with all of the life that we have going on, we wouldn't be able to reach, we wouldn't have been able to reach to where we're at right now. And so a lot of people are really just, they're feeling stuck, and they want to reach forward and they want to reach higher. But the only thing that's holding them back is resolving this. It's like a video game. It's like if you cannot pass one level, there's no way you're going to break the ceiling into the next. So that's really important. So if you want to cultivate that deeply rooted trust, don't be the spouse that's like holding on to the past, holding on to the past, holding on to the past. Have the conversation, make room to heal from the past, but then be ready to move forward.
That's right. And if you said, hey, we've had these conversations and you're looking that you need help with those conversations,
Yeah.
just shoot us a DM. Shoot us a DM and we'll show you what that look like, how we can actually help you to move forward. Okay.
Absolutely.
So number two is to get rid of the emotional and spiritual walls. Talk about it,
Let's
babe.
talk about it.
The emotional and spiritual walls.
So here's the thing. Some people have been married for so long, okay, and have built walls, built emotional walls where you cannot, I'm not going to let you in, you're not letting me in. And not only that, but here's the thing, marriage is a spiritual experience.
Mm.
It's a spiritual experience. Have you ever, just been around your spouse? You could probably feel that by now when your spouse's energy just shifts, when their spirit is high and then it just shifts and it changes and you can feel it. Okay, but it's because you're so connected. You're so connected to each other. You can feel those things instantly. And so marriage is a spiritual experience, right? And so one of the things that, we talk about when it comes to building that trust is removing those emotional walls. Okay, removing those emotional walls, addressing anything that's stressing the relationship. If there's anything stressing the relationship right now, let's talk about that, because that's still a wall. That's a wall. That's creating a wall where I can't reach to you and you can't reach to me. And we can't dive deep into conversations. We can't dive deep into each other's minds at all. We can't connect any deeper. Why? Because there's a wall up. Also, habits that cause distance. Distance is one of the easiest ways to cause that separation. Emotional separation, spiritual separation. So what do we want to do? We want to eliminate the habits that are causing the distance and the patterns that are driving you away from each other. Have a conversation. Have a conversation. One of the things that we teach our clients is to have very specific conversations. And so what we recommend to you is sit down, have a 10-minute conversation, not 30, not for, not, it doesn't have to be an hour, but have a short conversation. Just talk about, okay, what habits do you see in me that are pulling you away? Like, what habits do I have that are pulling you away from me? And have that open and honest conversation. And just be real. That's what this is about, y'all. You want trust, you got to be real with each other. We can't be out here just trying to avoid this, avoid that, and tiptoe. Okay. Yes, of course, sometimes you're going to need support in some conversations, but you got to push. You got to push. You got to keep initiating. And some people, when they don't get the result that they want in the conversation that they're having, they're like, you know what? I'm done.
No one have those conversations no
I'm
more.
not doing this no more with you. And next thing you know, it's like you're up the roof,
And when you have those conversations, you start decreasing. When you remove that wall, you decrease the tension, right? You increase more infection. You increase, more conversations. More of an emotional connection. And the truth be told, we put this wall up sometimes intentional. Sometimes it's intentional, and other times like we purposely, put it up.
Yeah.
We purposely put these walls up because of things that transpire in a relationship. So I got to put this wall up so I'm protected. I'm protected from my spouse.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Christ said, let not a man put us under,
Yeah.
asunder. And that man he's talking about, that man ain't just outside man.
Yes.
That's speaking of mankind, human. So don't let yourself can be that one that's causing that division. Because that's what asunder means. Divided, separate. How do some get divided or separated? Some comes in between them.
Yeah.
So don't let that be you, being the person that's caught putting that wall up. Because once you put the wall up, you're protecting yourself from your spouse. Now it's like your enemies. You two want to have a wall around your relationship, where you two are in it, locked in together, and protecting each other for anything on the outside that's trying to infiltrate that wall, not a wall between each other.
Yeah. That's a bubble that we want to just burst for you real quick. Okay. One thing that we just don't support is this idea of that you need to have healthy boundaries between spouses. Okay. A boundary is a border. If you want a deeper, closer relationship, more intimacy, you want to connect more, you want to be one, you want to know each other, you want to deeply understand each other, communicate, remove the boundaries. You don't need boundaries from your spouse. You don't need a boundary between you and your spouse. It doesn't make any sense. We don't need borders. We don't need division. The only boundary that we need are the ones, like my husband said, putting them around for other people. Those are the ones who need the boundaries, not your spouse. Your spouse don't need no boundaries. We don't need no more division. There's enough division to work on. There's enough division here to work on. We don't need no more. Get rid of the boundaries. They're not helping. They're not supporting. We don't support it.
No, we don't support
Type no boundaries in the comments if that makes sense.
But we do support respect.
100%.
Respect, right? So that was number 2. Getting rid of the emotional and spiritual walls. And when you get rid of those emotional and spiritual walls, you're gonna be more connected emotionally, more connected spiritually. And then and what happens is when you start connecting with each other, you start building trust in that area, you start praying together more.
Yeah.
Reading the Bible more, having conversations about your spirituality more with each other. You start vibing on a different level.
Yeah.
And you looking at my eyes like that, look at you. You start vibing on a different level, like the way she looking at me. But this is things that we had to cultivate. We had to work on this.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have all this from the get-go. We had some of it, but a lot of it we didn't have because we was clashing, because we had some issues that we need to heal from, because we had emotional and spiritual walls up. And that leads us to number 3, which is cultivate a welcoming environment. Cultivate a welcoming environment in your relationship.
Yes. Type tension in the comments if you know how uncomfortable it is to live in a tense relationship environment with your spouse. Okay, we could type tension all day because we know what it felt like to have a tense house. That's what it was, walking on eggshells. You cannot show your spouse your mistakes. You have to watch your every move. You have to be extremely careful with what you say, how you say it, what you do. That's just a tense environment. And to be honest, it's just not welcoming. And so what we want to do is change things up. We want to decrease the tension. We want to decrease the tension. You want more trust? That means you want more emotional intimacy. You want your spouse to be able to let you in their mind, and you want them to want to be let into your mind. And so we can't do that if things are just so tense around the house all the time. If things are just so tight. And one of the exercises that we work on with our clients is this, and we want you to implement this. No feedback.
For a whole week.
Do it for a week, okay? Write that down, do it for 7 days. No feedback for 7 days straight. No criticism. No, you forgot this. No, can you do this better? Can you do this different? I asked you to do no feedback. Write that down because that is a major contributor to an extremely tense environment, and we would know.
Yes. And since you're not going to be doing feedback, what we want you to do is give the praise.
Instead, yeah.
Give the praise instead. The appreciation instead. Give the thankfulness instead. When you give the praise, the appreciation, you show the gratitude, you show the thankfulness, you call out those things to your spouse, and you magnify those things they're doing, they're going to do more of it. It's human nature. It's human nature that when people uplift us and shine the light on the good things that we do more of it because we feel good, like we've done something, like we've contributed. So we do more of it. Versus when someone's constantly giving feedback, after a while, like, well, everything I do is wrong, so I might as well not do nothing. Everything that I do is wrong. You got something to say about everything I do, so I might as well just fall back. People start questioning themselves, doubting themselves, feeling down on themselves. Hey, you know what? My spouse don't like me because they always got feedback. They always got something to say. I got to walk around the house on eggshells. So my spouse don't like me. So what is that doing? Continuously building that wall back up. So when you do it with no feedback and just start giving praise, your spouse is going to do more of the things that you're praising them for. But you got to change your perspective and see that. You got to be looking for the good. Literally looking for the good. And sometimes the good is there, but we just so blinded by negative, we don't even see the good. Because we focus on they didn't do this, they didn't do that, versus focus on, oh, wow, they did that? Thanks for dinner. Wow, you hooked us up. Yeah. Whatever it may be, those small things, magnify those things. Give your spouse praise, thankfulness, gratefulness for the next 7 days. and no feedback.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Game changer. That's one of my favorite scriptures too, is Philippians, I think it's 4:8. 4:8 and 4:9. And it says basically to focus on those things that are good, focus on those things that are pure, focus on those things that are lovely, focus on those things that are, beneficial, things of light, things that are
Yes.
great. And so that's what you want to do in your marriage. And that right there is going to decrease the tension and make room for so much more affection. It's going to make room for so much more peace back in your home. That's going to reduce the tension. It's going to get rid of that eggshell type relationship and make room for peace, make room for intimacy, make room for, cuddling, make room for getting close, make room for receiving each other, for having those deeper conversations. So those are the 3 overlooked steps to cultivate deeply rooted trust. Let's recap real quick. Number 1 is to make room to address and heal from the past. And number 2 is to get rid of the emotional and the spiritual walls. And lastly, number 3 was to cultivate a more welcoming environment. And we gave you that tip. Try that. No feedback for 7 days. It's going to work wonders. We guarantee it.
And if you go back and listen to this, we dropped a lot of jewels. And it's just go back to the beginning and listen to it. We dropped some stuff in here. With that being said, we enjoy having y'all this Tuesday.
That's right.
Peace and blessings. We'll see y'all next week.